It is August 7th, 2025, and at 11:14 a.m., my weather station says it is 104.1 degrees outside. So it's hot as can be. And I just finished reading Pride and Prejudice, which is book 2 of 6 within the complete Austens of Jane, the complete novels of Jane Austen. So we can see the list on the back. You got Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, Emma, Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion. So right out of the gate, this book was a little bit easier to read than Sense and Sensibility. They're similar in some ways as they deal with marrying well for various reasons. And this book discusses income as one of the criteria, but is not the primary criteria, whereas Sense and Sensibility more or less is. You've got the motherly figure basically saying if you don't marry well, you're screwed. And this one is more about impressions of people and how you might misinterpret what you think about somebody. A lot of as many words as the Britain people used, they still found ways to be confusing to each other. Their letters were misinterpreted in this book, and a lot of jumping to conclusions that kind of set in stone somebody's view of another person, and then find out they weren't correct after all. And I don't want to give away too many things. I want to keep it base because there's a lot of themes in both of those books that, the one flashback that I had to grade school, and I'm not sure what grade it was. It might have been junior high school. But I remember that there was some classes that the girls were walking around with Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice. And those two are the main famous books, I believe, of Jane Austen. And I was pondering why. And it seems because that back then, this was talking to like the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. A lot of people would just grow up and get married, and they'd go on, find a job, and do their thing. It's a little bit different now in a lot of ways because if you don't have proper education, you might not have a job at all. The job market's tight, and you need every little advantage you can get. And a lot of that is discussed in this old England kind of life, that the dividing line between being well-to-do and being a pauper was your level of education. So that's one thing that the schools, I'm sure, were trying to kind of teach people about, like, don't just go rushing into marriage because you like a person or whatever. And it still applies today because you can marry whoever you like, really. You might not like them later if your situation gets bad, but this one was more where Sense and Sensibility was dark. Like, if you'll be doomed if you don't pick the right financial situation. This one was more dealing with the character of the people. And I don't want to be with that guy because he's pompous and arrogant and stuff like that. And, I don't care if it's going to be less money or whatever, because I want a person that's going to be a certain way. It leaned more towards that part of it than the Sense and Sensibility part of it, that you're picking it for the money. But I will say towards the end of the book, one of them gets married and the guy's got a $10,000 income, which at that point was a lot. And they're basically jumping for joy. The women are like, yeah, you got 10 grand, you got your clutches and that. And it's kind of, I mean, it is what it is, right? If you're a man, and I don't know how to say this, but there's a lot of truth to it. There's a lot of people that are looking for their ride, And for a dude, if you have a good career, you don't want to be that primarily for somebody else, right? You don't want to be their financial ride. You want to be a partner. And this book can really kind of make you think a little bit about it if you read it young enough. The thing I wonder, though, is nowadays, especially, who reads any books at all that aren't my age, or perhaps in college because they're getting a literary degree or something of that sort. It seems like people only want to read books if they have to. I know we have a really high, fast-paced life now, and people are struggling to get their stuff done. But at the same time, people waste so many hours on their cell phones playing games, and you got to ask yourself, who is it really that's trying to get you to waste all your time? It's the rich, because if you waste all your time, you're not going to be competing with them. So you have to kind of put that phone down and think, what can I do to train myself and make myself more sellable to them so that I can be included in their group to the point that I can have an actual life rather than being a permanent pauper. Yeah, my mom was just talking to me about an old song that was saying, I owe my soul to the company store. And it was about the coal miners in the eastern section of the United States in the 40s, I guess, where they didn't even actually get a paycheck. They got store credit, and they'd do their work, and then they'd go get whatever they needed from the company store, but they could never get anywhere else to escape that lifestyle. And they were pretty much stuck in it. And this is the American way, right? Unless you've got somebody with resources backing you, your only opportunity is to get a proper education. It's by forcing yourself to outgrade, and I'm talking about grades in junior high and high school, outgrade everybody else so that you can get admitted into a good school and get enough financial aid that you can walk out with a significant degree that's going to pay well. I'm not talking about like, a music degree or something like that that isn't worth much in the real world for most people. If you want to get a STEM degree, you're going to have to work hard in junior high and high school. And that's your only ticket in. And more now, with the Pell Grants being cut back and the schools being under attack, it seems to me like the rich are going on full warpath against the average people that want to rise up. And if they are going to displace the immigrants that are in the country doing jobs that people say that no one else wants, it's very possible that the poor citizens of the United States can be forced into those kinds of remedial labor jobs, just like back in the coal mine days where they were working for the company store. And people don't want to go, hey, I'm live. People don't want to go that route. You want to do better than that. So it's becoming excessively more difficult to achieve something if they're not going to allow you to have a path to go to college for a good degree. And it's getting scary because there's been lots of instances in history where dictators and leaders of countries have diverted masses of people to do horrifying jobs for no pay. And at the demise of those people, and I'm not talking about just a career demise, you know what I'm saying, where they've got nothing to look forward to. And I think that's the reason that these books were kind of out there in that 70s, 80s time. It's like, if you want to escape the cycle of debt, and I'll go back to that time too. In England, they had debtors' prisons. If you didn't pay off your debt, a lot of the Dickens books were about, you had some debt you owed to somebody, they just throw you in prison. And we might be going that way. They're building a lot of prisons, right? They've got Alcatraz over there, and all these guys get paid from federal money, and they got to put people in there. So, you know, ultimately, who's going to go in there? Is it going to be only people that are not citizens, or are they going to put citizens in there if you live on the streets, right? They talk about getting rid of the homeless problem. Perhaps they're going to take a lot of those people and ship them off to Alcatraz, and things of that nature. And, you know, I will tell you, I told my children this growing up, it's not just a matter of having a career or having enough to do well, perhaps. It may be just a matter of survival. And if you're a guy my age and you work your career and you get done and you don't have a lot of resources and you maybe can't afford health care on your own, you may not have any the way it's going pretty soon. And there's a lot of countries in the world that provide base health care for people. And this country is still supposed to be the greatest country in the world, doesn't have it. So even if you get a good career going, if you're not loaded by the end of it and can readily afford health care in your elder years, you may be in for a lot of trouble where in other country you might not be. And most of the free world, civilized nations, have health care for all their citizens. So things are really taking a bad downturn. And I'm not sure, that reading this book perhaps is going to make you notice it a little bit more, but maybe it would. I mean, it got me talking about it. So I'm going to be off to the next book, Mansfield Park. If not immediately, it'll be fairly soon. I got to see how many pages that book is. So Mansfield Park starts at 415. Oh, and it's going to be a long one, I think. It goes to 674, so it's 250-ish, 260-ish, I get 260, something like that. The first two books are both over a couple hundred pages. You could do reasonably 20 pages a day. I did 25, and I read another book 25 as well each day, but my eyes start getting blurry at the end of the 20 because the font is real small. So if you have any vision challenges like I do, you probably want to limit it to about 20 a day on this particular big book because it is small. But I enjoyed this story. I guess, did I enjoy it more than Sense and Sensibility? Probably because it came across easier to read. There was less long segments of constant, I don't know how to word it, not discussion. The discussions are faster. So when you have back and forth discussions, it's easier to follow. When you have narrator going on and on and on in long form Old English, it's not Old English, but you know what I mean, older than now, it takes a long time to get through it. And you don't get a lot for the amount of words that they use. But when they're discussing in that older English, it's easier to follow than the long segments of narrator blob. And there seemed to be more discussion in Pride and Prejudice than Sense and Sensibility. So both good books. Take some time. They're kind of hard to understand sometimes. But just understand they're mostly about marriage, upward mobility, sustainability, education, living on an estate as opposed to not having one, I guess. Might be a little bit pompous, but it is what it is. It's an insight into a time frame in England, and kind of lets you know what they thought about back then and then compare it to now. probably a lot different. People maybe don't understand what their escape path is as much as they did then, or perhaps people just don't want to work that hard. I don't know, not sure.